Okay, so let's talk about Taekwondo for a hot minute. It's probably gonna have to be a four-part video because I'm not able to be outside demonstrating, and my legs really need a workout before I even attempt to demonstrate. I need to stretch out. I need to do a lot of stuff before I make those videos. But as promised, we will definitely talk about Taekwondo. I took Taekwondo for one reason, and one reason only, and that was so that if anybody popped up on me with Taekwondo, I could recognize the style and I could beat them with what I've learned. Now, this is some unorthodox stuff that I'm about to tell you, but I have to tell you because no other self-respecting teacher probably will tell you, and there are a lot of, as my friends and other martial artists say, there are a lot of McDojos. That is a term used for people who just teach you what you pay them for, you know. So they're just teaching you what they assume you should know. While on the other hand, we'll teach you what you need to know, but how you implement it and how you use it and where it carries you is all on you. However, I'm not going to teach you something that you cannot use, that will not help you in a clinch. And no one wants to be put in a situation where they can't fight back. There will be situations where you really can't. Henceforth, your girlfriend might be around, your child might be around, it might be a robbery. That being the case, do not put your life or their life in danger. Give the robber what the hell they want. I know that macho complex is going to kick in because I have not been in that situation except for in a film, but it is one of my deepest, darkest fears. Alright, so when it comes to Taekwondo, I was taking it for one purpose, and one purpose only. Now, since my sensei has long dead from it, I can speak on it the way I feel about it. Alright? Not to dishonor Master Jim Ennis, but I took Taekwondo so that I could beat Taekwondo. In fact, to be honest with you, every martial art I have taken, I've taken it so that I could beat it. And I know you're probably thinking, well, James, how do you beat a martial art? The long answer is, you really can't beat the martial art, but you can beat the guy using it. That's the long answer. The short answer is, nothing is impossible. Alright? Or if I may quote the Koreans from Mass Effect 2, many things are impossible until they're actually done. So when I started taking Taekwondo, Mr. Ennis was exceptionally pissed off at me. And the reason was, and he jumped down my throat, and I've done many push-ups for it. The reason was, I can't do katas to save my life. Alright? I can't. But you set me loose in a sparring match, and there's no telling what the hell I can do. But as far as katas are concerned, for those who don't know, Tosan, ice cream scoop, punch, block, step, ice cream scoop, block, ice cream. Yeah, you get the gist. The way it was explained to me when we switched to Naharte, and I think it was Tungu, but this is me, and from the bird's eye view, it's here, 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 and back to here. So I basically made the Star of David. Okay? In my mind, I hear what I'm told. I see myself doing it until I actually have to implement it. I watch students go before me, like 10 students. I'm the last student. I'm number 11. And 10 students got their yellow belt that day. Not James. And Mr. Ennis is like, I don't understand you. I can't read you. I can't seem to get how you spar very well I would say you're one of the best at sparring, but you can't make a kata look like anything but trash. And that was him putting it nicely. And I said, well, sir, when I first started taking martial arts, I was taught how to kick, where to kick, how to punch, where to punch. My teacher never taught me a thing about katas. He said that they were exercises unusable for the streets. He said, well, in my dojo, katas are usable, and you need to learn these katas so that you can get a belt. You can't stay in the beginner's class forever. And then he looked and he said, well, why are you even taking TaeKwondo? I said, because I heard it was cool. And I also didn't know that it existed. And once I learned that it existed, I wanted to learn some of it. And I never told him that I was taking it so that I can beat it. Like all things, and to quote Bruce Lee, simply simplify works. If you simplify the moves in TaeKwondo and not worry about Tosan, Tungu, Tenji, I'm probably saying them all wrong, but those are some of your basic forms, and these are just to get a yellow belt. If they were complicated enough for me to get a yellow belt, I would have never got a green belt. I'd have never got a blue belt. I'd have never got a yellow belt, a blue belt, a green belt, a red belt, a brown belt, whatever rank it was, because I think it's white, yellow, green, blue, brown, red, black in most schools. I could be wrong. Someone fact check me and let me know. But for his school specifically, it was yellow, 7 notches. Hold on, I did that wrong. It was white, 7 notches, then yellow. And your white notches are yellow. So you get 7 yellow notches, and then you get a whole yellow belt. And then your yellow notches were green. And you got 7 of them, and then you got a green belt. And then the blue belt came after that, and then the brown belt, and then the red belt, and then the black belt. And your black belt, as odd as this may sound, your black belt in his school had 5 or 7 red notches before you have a complete total black belt and you were like 7th degree or whatever. Somehow or another. Not sure if I'm saying that exactly right, but if anybody here went to the inner stairway, let me know where I'm fucking up at. But for that time that I was there in the 90s, I got in, I think I started between 92 and 93 because I was in high school and classes were not on Friday. I think I got in 93 because I wasn't working at Kegler's anymore when I went to the inner stairway. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm completely confused myself because when I first went to the inner stairway, he was downtown. And I can't remember if I was in high school or not, but I do know that I walked to the dojo. And that was when the first time I met S, and he bloodied yellow belt's nose, and he was a black belt, but he had only been training for 2 years, which, as far as I knew from martial arts at that time, that should have not even have been a thought, especially if you weren't being taught by an Asian teacher, that you should not have never gotten a black belt in 2 years, because if that was the case, I should have had a black belt way back when I was 7, and by the time I was 10, I would have had a black belt, which I also would like to call bullshit on that, okay, because I don't give a damn unless your parents, both of them, are martial artists, and I don't mean high-ranking martial artists, but know enough and have been in enough fights to know what works and what does not work, and with all due respect to every person who is not of Asian ethnicity, if your parents are not like Chinese or Japanese, because Japanese do more belts where Kung Fu does more sashes, you should not have a belt before you're 14. I'm just saying. Even if you start at 3, because most Chinese families, they start at 3. Now, traditional Chinese martial arts, they start their kids at 3, okay? Especially if they're a martial art background. If they're like from a family like Bruce Lee's family, Bruce Lee started late, but he became the best. Bruce Lee, I think, started at like 11 or 12, but he like really accelerated. I started at 7. And a lot of people tell you the younger you start, the better off you'll be. I'm pretty sure Brandon started about the time he could walk. So, there's a little girl on YouTube who's 2 and she's fucking awesome. And there's also a girl who's 6 and she's fucking awesome. And I can't remember their names, but I follow them also on Instagram, so they're awesome. But I think they have black belts, and I don't think that that's like logical. But for their age, they're probably you can see them. They can roll. They can roll. So maybe not. But I would never give a child a black belt before he reached 14. And the reason I have that is because of maturity. But for the most part, if you're not fully Asian, and I'm not trying to be racist, I'm not trying to put Asians on a higher pedestal, but if both your parents are martial artists and it's in your house 24 hours a day, that would be the only way I would say that you would have a black belt between the ages of 12 and 13. Not 10, not 7. When I first went to Mr. Ennis' school and I got my first white belt, I didn't get a first degree white belt. I got my first white belt just to go with the uniform. There was a kid in there who I think was either a green belt or an orange belt. He might have been a yellow belt. Either way, he's the kid that S busted his nose with. And he had a belt. And Mr. Ennis was high on chain command. So if I didn't call him sir, even though I was older than him, he was like 13 and I was like 16, 17. And I had to call this guy sir. And I was like, he's younger than me. Why should I call him sir? 20 push-ups. So I did my push-ups. Are you going to call him sir? Not until you tell me why. 20 push-ups. It's like, but he's 13. 20 more push-ups. So I'm doing 20 push-ups. Yeah, I'm rocking them out. And I'm still trying to consider, why am I calling this guy sir? And then he pointed to the wall. Respect the ranking belts. So I got it. I didn't like it, but I got it. His dojo, his rules. Alright, I got that. Here's the problem with that. Me and S were relatively close in age, and he had a black belt, so I can understand calling him sir. The kid that he got his nose busted, I don't remember his name. He was a higher belt than me, but he couldn't beat me. And one time, when S wasn't there and Master Ennis wasn't there, I had to spar with him and a green belt. And I pretty much showed them some shit that they didn't learn in the dojo. And they were like, we weren't taught that. I said, you also don't have to walk through a bad neighborhood every night to go home. I had to learn how to adapt. I have to fight in the streets. The only reason I'm in this class is so that I can defend myself better. Now, had I said so that I can learn how to fight, I'm pretty sure Mr. Ennis would have threw me out there, probably threw my money back in my face and told me never come back. So by the time we moved to Grady Avenue, I was running out of money and I had to make a choice. Pay for my car so that I can go to work or pay for TaeKwondo. So respectfully, I stopped taking TaeKwondo because I had to work and I couldn't afford to pay for my car plus TaeKwondo because the price had went up. Now I'm not saying he was a big dojo because he was a doctor and he was more than willing to work with me. The problem was my job was only paying me enough to pay for my car and I had to work extra hours to pay for my insurance. So that being said, and that before I cut my damn thumb almost off, things were getting worse for me. Money's always been something that's been tight for me, which is why I'm like a tightwad now. If I don't need it, I won't buy it. So unless I'm hungry or need clothing, I don't really spend money. Which probably explains the other video about why my boxer briefs don't work, right? But, if I don't need it, I'm not going to buy it. Alright? And that's just the way I am. I have to need it. I really have to need it. Back to the story. So I'm sparring with the green belt and I'm sparring with the kid who got his nose busted. And they were like, okay, well, we didn't learn that. We don't know what that is. I said, that's just straight up American street fighting. It's like, what? I said, hey, man, you have to learn how to adapt in a fight. And you better be good at what you know or you're going to be on the floor. And so, about the time the sparring match was getting really good, Master Ennis walked in and caught me doing a snake, and then he said, if you don't know that, then you shouldn't be using it. And I said, well, I kind of know some of it, but I'm not a master yet. So basically, I didn't lie to him, but I didn't want him to think that I was just being a dick and like playing with Kung Fu. I knew enough of the snake that I had to use it on 2 people while we were sparring. So I broke in, and you know, for Taekwondo, some of the Tosans and Tungus have a lot of crane in it, and so I used some snake, and when they would come at me, it's boom, boom, and then I'd spring off the wall and get the other guy spring off the wall, and Mr. Ennis was like, okay, you can't be doing that in here. I was like, but that's what I was taught. He's like, yeah, well, you're starting from the beginning here. That's why you're wearing the white belt. And as rude as that may sound, it's his dojo. So I got my Judo kunye, and I bowed, and we got in line because it was time for him to teach. That day, we went through high chops. So it was like you step, chop, and then we go back, but this time you have your block up. So he would stand there, so when you chop, he'd make sure you chop correctly. And his chops weren't like the standard karate chop. It was a Taekwondo chop, so your hands a little cockeyed, so you're like, you know, and he's like, all right, so you're going to chop, and then you're going to transition, and you're going to chop, and you're going to transition, and you're going to chop. And every time you step, it's going to be opposite foot, opposite hand. And then you're going to do same foot, same hand. And then you guys are going to do axe kicks. You're going to walk up and down doing axe kicks. So we did a bunch of axe kicks, and we did a bunch of chops. And he said, okay, Friday you guys get to spar. You can only use what you have learned in the dojo. And so I clearly thought that he was picking. But what he didn't understand was I have an accelerated learning capacity for martial arts. So when we started doing Taekwondo sparring, I started whooping ass. And they weren't really happy about that because I caught on to the kicks and the punches. I did not catch on to Tosan and Tangu, which is those forms that, you know, you come in the ice cream scoop, strike, another ice cream scoop, punch, and you're making this damn star as you walk. I couldn't do that shit to save my life. But when we got into sparring, and my ki was, you know, trying to be cool, and I was just tearing people up in the class at my level. The problem was, they were never at my level. I was ahead of them by so many years because I had been fighting every week since I was 6 years old. But not with martial arts, just with straight up fighting. I knew how to fight. I didn't know martial arts till I was 7. And by the time I was 10, belts and shit were always told to me, yeah, a belt is only really good for holding up your pants. It's not really good for anything else except holding up your pants. However, when you're in schools, belts are your chain of command and you're establishing rank. So when I got into Taekwondo and I started learning katas, and then he switched to Naharate, and this is the funny part. When he switched to Naharate, I had just got Tosan down. And Tosan is basically you're going back and forth, you're making a cross. So your first step is boom, 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 step. And then it's the same thing over, here, step, and you back up, and you step. And I had just got that, which means had he stayed in Taekwondo instead of Naharate, I'd have got my freaking damn yellow belt. Because he showed us which ones get what. And when he switched to Naharate, he started teaching us Tangu. Tangu, whatever. And that was where the star came in. And I was like, what the hell is this? And he's like, well, can you still do Tosan? And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, that's good for you if you were still learning Taekwondo. But you're not learning Taekwondo. Now you're learning Naharate. And I was like, what? He's like, it's basically Japanese Taekwondo with a twist because he spent most of his life in Japan learning his martial art. And then he was teaching Taekwondo because he learned Taekwondo. But he wanted to switch to Naharate, which is Japanese Taekwondo which was so confusing to me because, like, well, why don't you just keep teaching Taekwondo? It's my school. Enough said. So, when you're learning a martial art, you know, once class is over, ask your teacher questions. Get in their head a little bit. See what they think about you. Mr. Ennis didn't have a bad opinion about me, and I had a high opinion of him and most of the people there. It was just the fact that me learning from the beginning was not something that they should have been teaching me. He should have tested my level of skill and what I know, and then just decide where to put me. That wasn't how his school worked. He had to have me untrain myself to get stuff done right, which clearly didn't work because by the time I got Tosan, it was time to switch to the Naharte. After I left Mr. Ennis, one of my best friends' wife now, mother at the time, no, that didn't come out right. His wife was his girlfriend, and his girlfriend's mother was dating a Kempo instructor, and when he was there and was bored, or they weren't doing the nasty or whatever, he took me under his wing. I think he gave me maybe 15 Kempo lessons before they broke up and he moved back to wherever the hell he came from. Because I don't think he ever actually lived there, but he was there damn near every weekend. And my boy was living with his girlfriends and their mom, and they were on King Street. They were on King Street. And so when he was there, I got taught Kempo lessons. Now my boy and his girl would be doing whatever the hell they were doing, and if her mother went to work or whatever, and he was there and he didn't feel like going home, he taught me Kempo in the front yard. So I got enough Kempo lessons on how to use Kempo versus all the katas and everything. So it was like, well, I'm not going to go and teach you from the beginning. I'm going to teach you where I think you are. What do you know about Kempo? I said, I know nothing about Kempo outside the name. He said, okay, well, there's two Kempos. You have Korean Kempo and you have Okinawa Kempo. I'm going to teach you mostly Korean, but I do know Okinawa. So I'm going to teach you a combo of both, and mine has no forms. I'm just going to teach you where to hit, how to hit, where to strike, what to strike. Okay? Hopefully that made some sense. And that's pretty much how I learned Kempo. Now, Aikido, I took a little, it's like from someone who knew Aikido. I wasn't their punching bag or anything, but they showed me some steps, showed me how to go through. Same thing with Judo, same thing with Jiu-Jitsu. And martial arts has evolved since then. And I didn't learn anything about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu until I got into the Army. I knew about the UFC's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I knew about Horace Gracie and all that. The problem with that was, when I watched it, I really didn't consider it a martial art. I considered it two guys rolling around. I considered it kind of gay sex, and you do a lot of grappling and rolling. I was like, okay, and it's not a bad martial art. It's just not for me, which I learned really swiftly when I was in Delta Company. That Bravo Company was teaching us standing up Taekwondo and other karate type martial arts, and Delta Company was teaching us Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because I was injured in Bravo Company, I was only allowed to participate in certain things. I wasn't allowed to get down with them, but I was healed enough in Delta Company that they taught me how to roll with them. So I got a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I don't have like a belt or anything in it. I know the basic principles. I know that you have the triangle. I know you have the chokehold. I know that it's a lot of rolling on the ground and people's butt in your face and stuff like that, and I'm not really down with that. And I also know how to do the arm bar between the legs, the arm bar behind the back, the chokehold. But I knew how to do the chokehold before I ever took Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I'm a street fighter first. And so there's two chokeholds. The only one you can really use in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is probably the sleeper. But the Cobra Clutch is a very effective chokehold. It's probably also illegal. But you know, in my time on Earth and talking to other people who do MMA, as I end this video, because it's really long and I'll make a second or a third or fourth part or whatever, I've learned that a lot of people who are doing MMA, that the things that I do or would do are totally illegal, and stay tuned for that.